Hi guys, your favourite Ahmed Penguin again. Now, first off, let me apologise for the buzzing going on in the background. This is very much a reaction video because I have been sent a video, 15 questions that atheists can't answer. Now, you probably know that I'm an atheist. I mean, I don't particularly hide it. So, I'm going to have a go at answering these 15 questions that atheists can't answer. Well, let's crack on with number one.
So, what we are talking about is the questions that an atheist cannot answer. And of course, these are very, very legitimate questions. So, you have atheists, you have people who call themselves humanists, you have some people who basically are anti-godists. They seem emphatic about revolting against the said God. So, there are these questions, and I'll be listing the questions so we see whether these people can answer them, and then pose these questions to these atheists anytime you talk to them to see if they do have answers to them.
Well, I personally don't think I'm revolting, but I could probably think of a few people who do. I'm not... I don't think I'm an anti-godist. Purely because I've never heard of that before. But I'm certainly atheist, and I would certainly fall under the realms of being a humanist. Definitely.
The first question is, what is the purpose of your existence?
Well, my purpose basically comes down to... my parents decided that they wanted children, and I happen to be the second one in line.
And that's the question people have asked for so long. And you have these seminars where people discuss and say, what's the purpose of our existence? So as long as you're here and you do not know the purpose of your being here, it basically makes your existence lack any value. So we would like to see whether people can answer that question. Now, from a religious point of view, the answer is pretty simple to that question, and the answer is, quoting what I was speaking with a Jewish friend of mine some days ago, and he said, I did not create man but to worship me. Okay, so that's the answer to that from a religious point of view, that we are here to worship God. But we would like you to ask your atheist friends or people, atheist preachers, what's the purpose of their existence?
You mean philosophically, what is my purpose? What is the purpose of my existence? That's a difficult question. What is it that I want to achieve out of life? Well, I do want an E-Type Jaguar. That's up there as one of my key reasons for existing, for doing what I do. I like to think that I improve people's lives as well. Not in a narcissistic way, just, my friends, my family, my girlfriend, I like to think that they enjoy me being around. And having fun. Having fun's always a big existence, a big reason for existence, and yeah.
The second question is, if we can get away with it, why should we not kill fellow men? And this is a basic question on morality. People think morality, humanists think morality, men can determine morality. But the question is, if not for said lay down principles that come from the religious perspective, when you look at things from an evolutionary point of view, why not kill the next man if you're not going to be caught to survive, to get some money, to get something? If you're not going to get caught, what's the reason why you will not do it if there's not an all-seeing body and an all-seeing person who you will report to? Now, I would like atheists to explain what brings about this morality. If you're not going to get caught for adultery, or you're not going to get caught for something, Why not do it? But from a religious point of view, the answer to that is quite simple, because you have this all-seeing, omnipotent, omnipresent being that you'll report to.
Yes, I do understand, and I get that you feel you need someone to answer for, so that you stay on the right track. I, however, answer to myself, and I'm going to go into that a bit more. You see, humans are a social species. We're not the only social species, but we are a social species. And what that means is that we succeed or fail based on our interactions with other human beings. I mean, actually, when it comes down to it, we succeed or fail based on our interactions with all other animals, but specifically with human beings. This means that we have developed certain morality around that social existence. And this means that things that a group finds abhorrent is generally against the law, and that will include things like adultery and murder, the two that you've brought up here. So, what does that mean? That means that if I go out there and kill somebody, or I go out there and commit adultery, I'm sure I'm going to feel bad for it. Not only that, but it's not beneficial to us as a species for me to go ahead and do that. This means that I guide myself in my morality based on what feels good and what feels bad. And murder and adultery definitely feel bad to me, so I don't go ahead and do it. It's as simple as that. I don't need to be held accountable by some eternal good, some eternal justice to be good, basically.
The third question is, why should man conserve the environment? And this was a question I posed to a professor from New York State University, actually, NYU, during her dissertation presentation. And I asked her, I say, why conserve the environment? Nature, there have been, meteorites or asteroids have struck the Earth. And due to these processes, according to evolution, these are the reasons why we are here, because of catastrophic events. So all of a sudden, why is it our responsibility to starve ourselves of things we can do? We can make nuclear bombs, we can drop them, we can burn things, we can, cause global warming. At what point and for what reason and with what justification is man suddenly in charge of preserving the environment? Let things happen let the chips fall as they may, let man be wiped out. This is the question I posed to her. I said, probably nature has a plan to make a more special species than man. So the idea that man is the ultimate being and we need to preserve the environment for man, it's only due to religion that you believe man is the ultimate species. But if nature does it, then it's in our natural ability to destroy. And some people can fight to save, and some of us can fight to destroy. And eventually, if we destroy the environment, nature is going to replace us with a better species that can stay in the hot environment. So why do people, atheists believe in conserving the environment? I believe they should not. So that's another question.
But we aren't some kind of supreme animal. We're not a supreme being. We are just another animal. But to go back to your question of why should we conserve the environment, it's because it's our environment. If we get rid of the environment that we live in currently, then that's it. Humanity stops. And okay, if you believe that there is some kind of plan of nature, which I don't, then yes, you could possibly say that if we get wiped out, if there is a meteor strike and all of humanity gets wiped out, then yeah, nature might be trying to create a better being than humanity. However, I don't believe there is some natural guidance to any of this. This is all random happenstance, shall we say. And the reason that we need to look after the environment is because it is our environment. We've created it. And for us to survive to the next generation, to the generation after that, for the next 50 generations, 1,000 generations, however long you want to go on for, we have to make sure that our environment stays favourable to us. I'm not quite sure where you're going with the nuclear weapons. I mean, I don't think anybody thinks that dropping nuclear bombs is a good thing. And with global warming, we can already see the effects of global warming, and it's not going to do us any favours. It will, if we keep going the way we're going, we will be wiped out within the next couple of generations. So that's why we should look after the environment. I do want to, however, just switch this question around and ask why. If God controls everything, if God is all-powerful, why you should think about conserving the environment. I mean, if God's going to come in and fix everything if we screw everything up, then shouldn't we just crack on and do what we were doing?
The next question is, what is the singularity from which the galaxies were formed? Because according to the evolutionary theory, you had this dense singularity that expanded, exploded, and expanded into the world and continues to expand into all the galaxies. So, but the question is, what's that singularity? Because if you do not know, because we still, in essence, are that singularity. We are one. We are that one singularity. Because matter can never be created nor destroyed. But the question is, what is that singularity? If you don't know, that means you don't know what you are.
Actually, matter can be destroyed and matter can be created. You're thinking along the wrong route here, though. First off, the singularity is not from which galaxies formed. Galaxies formed from dust and gas. That dust and gas formed planets and stars. This is not... What you're talking about, however, is the universe. The universe did come from a singularity. And that singularity is a single point of infinite density of energy. Okay, so you've got a very... The best way to think about this is it's very small, but this is a very simplistic way of thinking about it as well, because at the same time, even though it's very small, it is at the same time the entire universe. So that's it. You've just got the entire universe at such a small size, and I use those words very loosely, that your energy, your entire energy in the universe is incredibly dense. And that's it. It's pretty much as simple as that.
The next question is, how did that dense singularity at the beginning of the Big Bang come into existence? How did it come about? So basically, you've not answered the fundamental question. Where did it come from? Where did that singularity that continues, that we are, where did it come from? There has to be a beginning of it. Now, some people come in and try to say that, but then you try to explain God, like if God, like the religionist says God created that singularity, but then they say, but how do you explain God? But these are people who don't understand the basic concept. You see, time, okay, a beginning deals with time and space. And time and space, so the question is, how did you create God? Or how did God come about into being? Time and space, that's the creation, is with time and with space. came into being with that singularity. So you cannot ask the question before the singularity, before that particle, that first particle. You can't ask the question of how did God come into being, because time limited coming into being comes about, and space all manifested from the expansion of that singularity. But when you go back behind that singularity, there's no time, there's no space. So there's no question of how or when did God come into being, because that's before the time and space that we are using within this our earthly conversation. So the question lacks logic. There's no question about that, the time factor when it comes to God.
You do realise you've just answered your own question, haven't you? In trying to answer why you can't ask where did God come from, you are answering the question of why you can't ask where the universe came from. The singularity is the universe, that's it. And that's the beginning of time. There was no before. So there was no before for there to have been the singularity coming from, if you know what I mean. So the answer is that it was always there. And it was always there because there is no time before it existed. Because time is part of the universe. Now, you could argue that what produced our universe are the remains of a previous universe. You could claim that in an environment where there is no universe, a universe must come into existence, and in which case our universe came into existence. There are so many things that you could say, but because you are talking about something that is outside of our perception, you cannot answer this question. Exactly the same reason that you think you cannot answer why or how God came into existence. So yeah, it just listen to your own answers.
Okay, so anyway, these are the questions. So we could have a further discussion on this on some other tape, but these are just the questions for you to ask the atheist to answer. The next question is, can something come into existence out of nothing? If not, how do you explain the last two questions? And it's the same thing that, from the religious perspective, we say, okay, God created that singularity, created something out of nothing. But for the person who doesn't believe in God, then who created that singularity, or how did that singularity come about?
Again, you cannot say that the universe came out of nothing, because the universe is the beginning. There is nothing before it. And when I say that, I mean there is no before for there to be nothing before it. So it doesn't matter whether something can come into existence out of nothing, because when you're talking about the formation of the universe, it's not coming out of nothing.
Question number 7 is, categorically prove your existence beyond being in a dream. The only test I know so far to prove that you're not in a dream is to pinch yourself. And that's a stupid test. Of course, pinching yourself doesn't prove anything. So why bother? And this deals with the whole concept of materialism. We struggle to buy that BMW. You struggle to achieve things. You even want to eat food. Would you do those in your dream? So before you can define or state that, okay, this is important, this is relevant, prove yourself, your existence. Prove material existence. Prove your existence out of being in a dream. Because if not, you're really at loss. If you're doing all this and you're just in a long, prolonged, as it may, dream.
Again, this is one that I'm going to have to turn round back upon you. You prove your existence. And I mean, prove it beyond being in a dream. And I assume by being in a dream, you mean solipsism. The fact that everything that you see, touch, everything that you perceive could merely be a figment of your imagination. This is what we call solipsism. Now, when it comes to science, we've got a few things up our sleeve that we can help here. Now, science is built upon a certain number of assumptions. And these assumptions basically are that, one, reality exists. Because if reality doesn't exist, then there's no point in measuring it. Two, that reality can be measured. Again, if you can't measure reality, there's no point in even trying, in which case science falls down. And three, we can make predictions based on our measurements of reality. Using these three assumptions, you can categorically prove your existence, because you can measure. We can measure humanity. We can measure our physical beings. We can measure our weight, our mass. We can measure our density. We can measure our heart rate. We can measure our blood pressure. We can measure our thinking. We can measure other people. We can touch other people. We can measure that they exist. They have mass. They have density. We can measure light, and we can see, as a result of being able to measure light, we can see other people. We can measure the existence of different compounds in the air, and as such we can smell other people. We can measure the amount of vibration through the air or through solid objects, and as a result of that we can hear other people. We can hear ourselves. So that's how we can prove that we exist, is we can take these measurements. Now, yes, we do have to make those three fundamental assumptions, but if we cannot make those three fundamental assumptions, then you cannot prove anything, and that includes yourself and your God. If we go back to how do we prove that we ourselves exist, I myself am going to defer to René Descartes and say, I think, therefore I am.
Question number 8 is, can you scientifically discuss parthenogenesis, which is certain organisms birthing, virgin births, pretty much? Because a lot of people, argue about these religious concepts, which are across most religions, of virgin births. And parthenogenesis exists mainly in invertebrates. In certain conditions they can. And there's this link about virgin birth of a mammal, that actually rewrote history of biology, where they actually brought about virgin birth. So virgin birth is not that big of a deal. But if scientists, people who doubt God, believe in parthenogenesis, then the question is, how do they reconcile that? The fact that virgins can be made to give birth, including mammals, and then deny virgin births as this big thing. And that also goes along with all these other miracles, which many of them are scientific, like Adam and Eve being made from a rib of Adam. And when you look at it, that's just cloning. So if you understand cloning, when you're trying to avoid hybrid sterility, if making species incompatible, so the best way to make a species is out of a piece of the other. So you have Adam and you take his rib, and that's you get stem cells in the rib, which actually just goes along with cloning. And then you can't clone a man out of a woman, but you can clone a woman out of a man, because a woman just has 2 X's, so all you need to do is double the X. So basically, when you talk about stuff like that, a lot of religious stories have simple scientific explanations, which, depending on the time frame, sometime you're thinking about a rib being broken and cracked, but it's just cloning. The word is just cloning. God cloned Eve out of Adam's rib, and it's as simple as that. Some of these things could simply be explained in ways scientists and students of science can't understand.
Just to clear a few things up, by parthenogenesis, this gentleman means asexual reproduction. So, we do see asexual reproduction. We see asexual reproduction in everything from bacteria through to amphibians, invertebrates. We even see it, as he says, we do see it in other organisms as well. The thing is, we've observed it in other organisms. We haven't observed it in humanity. We haven't observed it in any primates. Or at least as far as I'm aware, we haven't observed it in any primates. Also, this is asexual reproduction. The animal that produces a near identical copy of itself. And this is always the case. It is not producing another human being. Say, for example, if we had a woman who was asexually reproducing, she would only produce other women. She would only produce effectively clones of herself. There would be no extra biological information to make Jesus. Which is basically what you're getting at, isn't it? The whole idea of the virgin birth of Jesus. Well, that would be impossible. It would not be possible for a woman to give birth to a man asexually.
So question number 9 is, do you agree that evolutionary principles prove religion? And that's the simple thing, because evolution says that traits, human traits, including memory, religion, the test of evolutionary success is a trait that stays with people through the advancement of man. So any trait that stays with you is evolutionarily positive and a successful trait. Religion is one of them. So you want to cancel your memory, do you want to cancel perception, do you want to cancel foraging for food? All these are evolutionary traits which have stayed with man, including religion. So evolution actually promotes religion because it stayed and helped man to survive to the point at which we are today.
No. You're wrong, and I can demonstrate this perfectly, easily, by telling you that I'm an atheist. So there you go. There's proof that religion is not an evolutionary need. It's not an evolutionary trait. We aren't inherently religious. Religion comes around from indoctrination. At a very young age, you are told that God exists. You are told that God controls everything. You are told that he's all-powerful. You are told that if you do things bad, you'll go to hell. If you do things good, you'll go to heaven. And you remember these things because you're young when you're told them, and you're told not to question them. So you don't. And this is how you are raised. I wasn't told that. At no point in my life did my parents tell me, oh, this is God, this is what you have to do. If you're not good, you'll go to hell. If you are good, you'll go to heaven. My parents never inflicted that on me. So I'm not religious. I have never had a desire to be religious. I've never had that drive to find a religion. So no, religion is not evolutionary. And if humanity was wiped out tomorrow, save one person, and that one person had no idea about your God or your Jesus, then he wouldn't believe in your God or your Jesus. He would still be alive. So religion is not an evolutionary trait passed down. Religion is a social construct that some of us are raised into.
The next question is, why do you sleep? Scientists just can't figure it out. Religion has its answers to it, including some form, depending where, God takes souls away and returns them when you wake up. So religion has its understanding of sleep, but why do you sleep? And that's a deep question. Scientists fail to understand. There's no reason for it. You waste your time. You spend so much of your life in it, and what's the reason for it?
Why do you sleep is actually quite trivial to answer. During the day, while you are awake, while you are thinking, while you are working, your body builds up full of memories, full of chemicals, full of hormones. These things these are naturally occurring in your body, and they just build up over time. And what happens is once they reach a certain level, your body, your brain says, right, now we need to deal with this. We need to do something with these. And it is during this sleep that these are dealt with. So your memories, which are effectively just chemical patterns in your brain, are stored away. Your hormones, your adrenaline, your testosterone, your estrogen, all your hormones that have been released into your body during the day are cleaned up. Your muscles are allowed to relax and recover from doing what they've been doing all day. And just generally, it's rest, it's respite, because you cannot go for long periods of time. Now, I'm an insomniac, and so I have been awake for very long periods of time in one go. And I can tell you that after being awake for 48 hours, for instance, you start to develop a headache. And things start becoming difficult. Your motor functions become difficult. It's very difficult to find words. It's very difficult to describe things, and you start aching. Your body starts aching, and your body starts aching because of the build-up of chemicals. You start finding it difficult to think because your brain is building up with hormones and chemicals, and you've had no chance to clear any of this out. So sleeping is your body's way of housekeeping. It has nothing to do with your soul being taken away. Either that or my soul never gets taken away, because, as I say, I very rarely sleep. And when I do sleep, I sleep for very, very short amounts of time.
Question number 11 is, why do you yawn? That's another one.
You kind of skipped over this one quite quickly, and I'm not entirely certain why. But if you are genuinely interested in why you yawn, it's very, very simple. When you are tired or when you are bored, then your body starts to relax and your breathing slows down and gets shallow. Because of this, you start to accumulate carbon dioxide. As soon as that carbon dioxide reaches a certain level, then your body forces you to take a deep breath. And this deep breath takes place in the form of a yawn. Now, you can actually prove that this is the case if you sit and hunch yourself over so that you are forced to take shallow breaths. Then after not very long, you will be forced to yawn. This is very easy to try, and I do recommend that anybody who is interested in why you yawn and how it happens to give it a try. Just sit on a chair and hunch yourself over. If you can get your head as close to your knees as possible while still sitting down, then eventually you will need to yawn.
Question number 12 is it's an evolutionary question again. It's bilateralism. Human beings, you are bilateral. You have two sides. Question is, if you are developing two sides, how come both sides are harmonious, congruous, the same? Why don't I have a blue eye here? Can anybody who's talking strictly based on evolutionary principles explain why I don't have a square eye here? You can't develop two sides to harmonize. The bilateralism is something people just don't understand. So, except you have an intelligent designer making it happen, how come you have two, identical sides? It doesn't make sense. I would like atheists and humanists and anti-godists to explain that.
I find it really interesting that you used your eyes as an example there, because I hope you realise that there are people with polychromia, and that is when you had developed two different coloured eyes. You know, people can have a green eye and a blue eye. David Bowie was a famous polychromia. But bilateralism, why would you expect things to be different? I mean, every organism has a symmetry of some sort. Every organism has a symmetry of some sort. When it comes specifically to humans, actually, we find perfect bilateralism. We find perfect symmetry very attractive, and as such, symmetry is something that we will have evolved to have because it is found attractive. You know, if somebody's got one eye is lower than the other, one eyebrow bigger than the other, half of their face either scarred or disfigured in some way, we don't find that attractive. We really don't find that attractive. If a face is symmetrical, it almost doesn't matter what features they've got, they are inherently attractive. Obviously, we are programmed to find unhealthy disfigurements unattractive, but generally, as a rule, if a face is symmetrical, it's attractive. So, evolutionary, we will find ourselves selected to be more symmetrical. But human beings aren't symmetrical anyway. I'm sure a lot of your female audience will attest to, they will have one foot bigger than the other, one hand bigger than the other, one breast bigger than the other. Your male viewership will be able to attest to their hands, their feet, even their testicles are slightly different. They are not symmetrical. And you're not symmetrical. Your heart is slightly to one side of your body. Your stomach is on one side of your body. Your liver is on one side of your body. Your appendix is on one side of your body. And if you're going to go down the route of, humanity is perfect and we must have been designed this way, why do we have an appendix?
Question number 13 is, why does a cock hatched in seclusion crow when a hawk passes by? This is the innate, knowledge of organisms. It goes along with migration patterns, innate abilities. How does that cock know that hawk, it has to warn others that that's danger there? How do you have that? Is that coded in your genes? Can that be coded in your genes?
Yes. Fear is something that we do have coded in our genes. It's why people are afraid of the dark. It's why people are afraid of ghosts. It's why when something falls over in the kitchen, you jump. These are things that are innately built into us. And it's exactly the same with the chicken, with the cock. He will fear hawks, and the reason that he will fear hawks is because if he didn't, he would have been eaten. And likewise, humanity, back when we were on the plains with the lions and the tigers and other predators, if you didn't run when you heard a stick breaking behind you, you'd get eaten.
Okay. Question number 14. We have 15 questions here. The second to the last question I have here is, since there is absolutely no fact and no time-bound guarantee in science, can a position devoid of fact surpass other positions? And this is, in science, there's no fact. There's absolutely no fact in science. So how do you come to the table for a conversation or a discussion when you're not bringing any fact? Can you use a position where there's no fact? You have theories, you have principles. And lots of times these principles or theories get thrown out. Now, how do you come to the table for a conversation without a single fact and use that to oppose something else? Now, you might not be able to prove that something else is better than what you are coming to the table with, but you are coming to the table devoid of fact.
No. No. You're misunderstanding the principle that you're talking about. It's not possible to come up with the truth, shall we say. We'll just call it the truth. It's very difficult to come up with the truth. However, facts are very easy to come up with. If I let go of something, it will fall to the floor. That is a fact. If I throw something upwards, it will travel upwards, and then it will fall to the floor. That is a fact. If you light a flame, then you can see it from quite a distance. That is a fact. These are facts, and facts are what we call observations. You're also talking about theories, and this shows me that you don't actually understand what a theory is. Now, a theory is a hypothesis based on observation that has been verified with further observation. So, for instance, Newton's theory of gravity is a theory because it's a hypothesis. It's the hypothesis that two masses will attract each other. And the observation is that things fall. The observation is that the planets move around each other. These are verifying facts. These are verifying observations of the theory of gravity. Now, at that point, we can call it a theory. Until we get to that point, we can't call it a theory. It's simply a hypothesis.
Okay. And the final question is, can you defend or explain or justify the placebo effect? And when you're telling people to abandon religion, it's well known that the placebo effect is, you take a placebo and you do get healing. How do you explain that? Science cannot explain that. And you have great amount of healing in placebo effect. And this comes with spirituality and all the spiritual solutions where these things transcend scientific explanation. You just swallowed chalk and you got healed of a condition. How come? Something out of the ordinary sense material existence. So, as simple as it is, the placebo, how do you explain that?
Again, you seem to have a rather loose grasp on exactly what's happening here. The placebo effect works, yes. Don't get me wrong, the placebo effect does work. And it works in the way that a lot of pain is psychosomatic. Now, what I'm saying about that is it not that the pain doesn't exist, but because you are feeling the pain inside your brain, you can actually block it out. It is possible for you to convince yourself that you cannot feel that pain anymore, and as soon as you reach that point, you cannot feel that pain anymore. This is not the same as healing. If you cut yourself, the only way you're going to heal yourself is by letting your skin reheal. Likewise, if you've got an infection in that cut, then okay, yeah, you might heal naturally. Your immune system might kill it off. But if you want to give that a boost, you give them antibiotics. There is no placebo antibiotic. There is no way you can give someone chalk and that will help clear up that infection. The infection might still clear up because your body has an immune system and is very good at fighting any kind of illness, any kind of invasion into it. But sometimes you do need that little bit extra help from the antibiotics. And as I say, there is no placebo antibiotic. I don't quite get why that is a religious issue.
So these are questions I'd like you to pose to your atheist friends or prophets of anti-God prophets, and bring the answers and let's have a conversation about it. Thanks. Cheers. This is Dr. Peregrino Brimah.
So there you go. Those are my 15 answers to the 15 questions that an atheist cannot answer. I like to think I've answered them quite well. If I Now I'm not going to profess to being an expert on any of the subjects that I've spoken about today. These are all based on things that I learnt when I was in school. They are based on the results of a quick Google search. They are the results of me asking my friends and my friends who have specialities in various different fields, what they think. Now, they are all atheists, they are all humanist, they would all fit under the target for this video. If you do have a better answer than I've given, please do put it in the comments below, and I might even add them to the video afterwards. Okay, thanks guys for watching. As usual, if you do like it, please like, subscribe, share it around. If you don't like it, then please enter down in the comments what you thought was wrong with my with my video, and I will address it. Thank you.